make sure to follow us on Instagram at Whistlethrowers. It's a great way to interact with our show. Our DMs are always open for questions, topic discussions, and more. You will be able to find our new episodes and other announcements there.
The thing is, when you have a bad coordinator like that, you're stuck. When you move to a guy mid-season like they did with Desai and Patricia, it doesn't look good and it doesn't end good.
All right, thanks for tuning back into the Whistle Throwers podcast. This is Jack Mobar, joined by
Jack Slaymaker.
And we finally made it to the playoffs of the NFL. And we're going to go in order from game to game. So first game was on Saturday, Texans versus the Browns. I famously said that the Browns are going to win not only this week, but their next matchup against the Ravens. So everyone in me and Vegas were wrong on that.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud looks like the best quarterback in the NFL in my eyes. This was a statement game for them, as the Browns had like the best defense all year, even though they kind of slacked like the last 5 weeks. They were consensus like the best defense in the NFL, and they got 31 points put on them, and not counting Flacco's 2 pick sixes at all. But Flacco, it seems like his insanity run ended. I don't know what direction that team is going to go quarterback-wise moving forward, because even though Flacco stunk it up, he still played way better than Deshaun Watson did at the end of the regular season than Deshaun did ever since he got in the Browns uniform.
100%. I think this was the one time Joe Flacco actually made it look like Deshaun Watson wasn't the problem, which obviously we know Watson is a huge problem there. He just has not played well or up to his contract. But this is the first time Flacco looked bad. And to address your point about Stroud looking like the best QB in the league, I don't think it's wrong at all to say that the 2 hottest QBs right now are CJ Stroud and Jordan Love.
Yep.
Which we'll get into that game in a little bit, but we'll stick with Stroud. He just looks perfect. Like, it seems like nothing phases him. And I'm interested to see when defenses start throwing curveballs at him next year, like what the game plan is going to be for this guy. Because it seems like he has an answer for everything. Because Browns tried blitzing, and Jim Schwartz is not a blitz guy. He's a guy that sticks 4 down and wants to get pressure with 4 100% of the time if he can. But even when he realized he needs to bring more guys in, CJ Stroud was perfect and wasn't fazed at all by any pressure the Browns were getting. And like, they weren't getting much. You got to give credit to Houston's O-line and CJ Stroud. They really carried this performance. Obviously, the receivers played well, but I think it was the O-line and CJ Stroud that really were the catapults for Houston, like just dominating this. Because I'm pretty sure I picked Cleveland to win. I can't really remember.
Maybe.
But I know Aiden picked Houston. Yeah. And I don't think even Aiden was saying 45-14 or even anywhere in that vicinity. Really.
Yeah, because none of the receivers really went off either. Like, the highest receiver was Nico Collins with 96 yards and a touchdown. Like, that's great, but no one really... Like, if you looked at the scoreboard and saw 45 points, you would not think that a wide receiver would have over...
Right. No.
You would think a wide receiver would have over 100 wide receiver yards.
No, I know what you're getting at. And, like, to your point, it got spread around everywhere. You look, besides Collins with the 6 catches, it was Jordan had 1 catch for the 76, and Mechie had 3 for 44. Schultz, 1 catch for 37. Hutchinson caught 2. Woods caught 1. Singleton caught 3. Like, they spread it around a lot. So that's a recipe for success against any defense. And that was proven because they just ripped apart the number 1 defense in the NFL.
They did rip apart the best defense in the NFL, yes. However, like I was saying last episode, Flacco has a turnover problem.
Yep.
And it hadn't turned into a big issue until he threw 2 pick sixes. But there was a turnover issue. And like I said, you can't win playoff games turning over the football that much. So, yes, Flacco had a great run. And I'm happy to see the Browns, for this season at least, win in the right direction. But they're going to need to figure something out at quarterback. Whether it's Watson, maybe it's Flacco another year. But again, those turnovers really hurt them. And they were in a position where they could have run the football still. Maybe not the end of the game when he threw the 2nd pick six, but still they were in a position where you could run the football and it would have worked okay. Now, again, they did struggle a little bit with that during the game. But I just felt like they relied way too much on a guy who was too inconsistent at certain points during the year. CJ Stroud was awesome. No, I did not expect the Texans to put up 45, even with the 2 pick sixes.
Yeah.
And I love CJ Stroud, and I thought he was going to have a good game, but he played out of his mind. You guys said that there's 2 quarterbacks, either Stroud or Jordan Love. Later in the episode, I'm going to have to throw in Baker Mayfield because he had an awesome game.
That's true. That's very true.
But those 3 definitely stood out as the best quarterbacks so far, except now Josh Allen, who we'll talk about a little bit as well, is looking a little bit better. So there's a lot of really good quarterback play so far in these playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I think we can move into the Dolphins-Chiefs game. So the biggest thing for me in this game is that the NFL sleazily put this on Poopcock exclusively.
Yeah.
And luckily for everyone, this game was such a dud that it doesn't really matter. But like we said, the number 1 defense got stopped on Saturday, and the number 1 offense got stopped on Saturday, cold in their tracks.
Yeah.
The temperature was like 4 degrees, but it felt like almost negative 30, which is ridiculous. Yeah. And Mike McDaniels and the Dolphins couldn't get a single thing going. Tua has continued to struggle, as some of us have predicted from last week. Do you think Tua is the long-term solution there?
No, but he's the solution in the present because the fact of the matter is you can't do much better than Tua right now. It's hard to just get a QB. It's hard to trade for a QB. It's hard to draft a QB. And you have a guy right now who fits a scheme. Like, he does fit a scheme. And I think when things go right for the Dolphins, Tua is their guy. He has to be able to play better when things aren't going right for them. Mm-hmm. And he hasn't shown an ability to do that. And that's where you land in like Cowboys territory and 49ers territory, where you just can't get over the hump because your QB can't get you there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really put this one on Tua. Yes, he did not play very well, but the entire Dolphins team just didn't look like that they were ready to play. And I thought that the weather was going to have an impact for both teams, and really just looked like it impacted one. Outside of a few drops by the Chiefs, but that's just been happening all year. Yeah. As for the question about Tua, look, he didn't play in the playoff game last year. That was Skylar Thompson, who actually played pretty well, all things considered. So this is Tua's – he hasn't had many playoff starts, and definitely not one that was like this cold or anything. I still trust Tua. The way that the offense played the majority of the year was great. They just struggled against really good teams. That's sort of been the issue for the Dolphins. If they can figure that out, the entire team figures that out, not just Tua, this will be a really, really good team for the next who knows how many years. But they need to be able to beat the Buffalo Bills, and so far they just can't do that when they need to.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to win your division and have to keep playing these road games in really cold temperatures, you're going to end up in Buccaneers territory like it was in 2002 when they eventually did win the NFC Championship that year, where people are just going to keep doubting you if you keep having to go to Kansas City or Buffalo for playoff games.
Yeah, right.
So, again, I do still trust Tua, but there's also the health factor. This year he did stay healthy and he put up career numbers. I do expect him to stay healthy, but you still have to worry about those concussions he had last year. And if, God forbid, he ends up getting another one at some point in the next couple of years, you might have to start looking for another quarterback, not because of Tua's play, but just because of health concerns.
Yep.
Yeah. So we can move on to the Sunday games.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue going in order. So Packers-Cowboys. So the final score was 48-32, but the final score to me was 27-0.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask me, like, everyone knew that was over. And Jordan Love, who I've been very high on all year, had a perfect passer rating up until he got thrown back in at the end and had one incompletion. But he played an outstanding game with weapons that are in their freshman and sophomore years, besides the running backs. And Aaron Jones played amazing, 3 touchdowns. Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb and Dak weren't clicking until like the second half, which was really weird because CeeDee was probably the second best wide receiver in football this year, and Dak was like top 5 quarterback this year, and they looked abysmal.
Yeah,
like they couldn't get a thing going, and it was very evident like even from the first quarter, that this game was over.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask me, in the time that I've been watching the Cowboys, this is their most embarrassing playoff loss ever.
100%. Ever? I'm not sure about ever.
Well, in my time watching.
Yeah, I guess in our time, probably. But, man, now that's definitely the most embarrassing one since, like, 2010, without a question. Like, I think this was your best shot at a Super Bowl. Like, even the year in 2016 when they went 14-2 or whatever their record was, I can't really remember. But
the rookie year?
Yeah, Dak's rookie year and everything. That year, you had to run into Aaron Rodgers in the divisional round.
Mm-hmm.
And this time, you had a chance of avoiding San Fran until the NFC Championship game.
Yep.
And this was your best chance. This was your best chance to do it, without a question.
Mm-hmm.
And they not only lost this game, they got pummeled.
Yep.
They got stripped down, spanked on the behind. That was totally embarrassing by them. I am with you. Like, I don't think this game was necessarily Dak Prescott's fault. Like, in my opinion, you go down 14-0 there, and then when Dak throws his first interception, they were down 14-0. They're backed up in their own territory. Like, in a normal situation, you're running the football there, and you're trying to get a rhythm on the ground and then opening up the air through your ground attack. But instead, they're forced to air the ball out because they are down 14-0, and they're backed up in their own territory. And the corner, Jair Alexander, just made a good play on a ball that, I mean, it could have been placed better, but it also could have just fallen incomplete.
Yeah.
And you're punting. But I don't necessarily put this one on Dak. I just think their defense couldn't buy a stop for the life of them, which is crazy because I thought the strength of this team was going to be Dan Quinn and the schemes he would draw up because he's been a great coordinator there. Not only did he get out coached, I mean, it looked like he didn't even show up to the meetings this week.
Yeah.
Like, that was horrible. And Love carved them up. I don't want to get too hard on Dallas because it ends up taking away from Green Bay, but Love and those weapons, those young weapons, you got to tip your cap to them because they all played their role to a T. It's crazy how, I don't want to say no name because they're not bad. None of them are bad. It's just that it's so many, like, average guys kind of producing together to...
You know, they don't have a superstar.
Yeah, right. And, like, they're all producing together to make the production of a good receiver room with, like, names and talent.
Yeah.
It's crazy to see, honestly. And I think they have a shot next week.
They do. I think so as well, but you don't want to rag on the Cowboys. I kind of do a little bit more because Deron Bland and Micah Parsons were kind of invisible the entire game.
Yeah.
And I can think of like 2 or 3 separate occasions where it was tight ends had 20 to 30 yards of separation, open throws. It was different tight ends too. And like on third down, they were playing third and shallow. They were playing incredibly soft coverage every time. Like, I didn't understand the game plan going in. Yeah, I really think if the Packers like go all in on defense, that they could have a shot at the Super Bowl.
Me too.
Because that's all they're missing if they keep playing this way on offense.
I think they played a great game on defense. So.
All right. Last week, predicted the Dallas Cowboys to make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I didn't even address that.
Oh, yeah. Who told you?
Yeah. You guys are
I'm getting to it. I am getting to it. They baby eat crow. That was a devastating loss. Devastating. Now, their division rival, humiliating loss, embarrassing. But that game that the Cowboys played was devastating because Mike McCarthy probably not going to have a job sometime this week because of this game. Dan Quinn might have just lost any chance he had of coaching as an NFL head coach, at least in the recent future. The way that they played this game makes absolutely no sense. Why on several different plays was there guys, like Jack said, 20 yards wide open with no one around them? Fox literally had to do a zoom out to show the closest defender and won their touchdown. It was a bad loss. Here's the worst part of the entire game, and it goes to halftime. Jimmy Johnson goes off, gives an impassionate speech. Now, people ripped him, said that he was being biased for the Cowboys, that Fox News shouldn't have aired it. I loved it. I loved it because after 30 years of him not coaching that team, after everything that happened where he led them to 3 Super Bowls, even though he coached the third one, 3 Super Bowls he built that roster, he had more passion for a team that let him go than anyone that showed up on Sunday against Green Bay.
Yep.
How can you come out and say that you tried your best when your former coach showed more passion than anyone else? That is ridiculous. That is the worst game I've ever seen the Cowboys play ever. And I don't even like the Cowboys, and that irritated. I'm sorry, but if you're a Cowboys fan, there's no way you can defend this.
I don't think any of them are. I really don't think any of them
if you're
are.
a Cowboys player, you cannot get up on the podium and try defending this game.
Yeah.
This was brutal. This was devastating. This was the worst loss in Cowboys franchise history in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. This cannot continue for a franchise that is supposed to be one of the best franchises in the league. And like Jerry Jones says, he doesn't have much time left. He knows that. Mm-hmm. He's going to have to make a lot of decisions, and I think he knows that, and the team better be ready for it. Because if this happens again next year, there's going to be players that are going to be gone, not just coaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would look at Micah Parsons' satisfaction, too. I know he's angry.
Yeah. But he's got to be angry with himself. That's the thing. Like, the thing is, that type of player will do finger pointing when it's unwarranted.
Yeah.
He didn't show up to play.
No.
And I honestly, to your point, I think most of their game plan was, well, our front four is going to be able to get pressure so we can sit back and kind of wait for bad throws to come out. Mm-hmm. And they didn't get pressure. I mean, there were a couple times I'm watching Parsons, and he just... I had never seen him play like that. And there's no excuse of element or injury. It's just... It was straight up just getting manhandled. Like, I mean, Aiden pretty much put it to a T. That was devastating and completely humiliating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I do want to quickly touch on the Green Bay Packers because I didn't get a chance to say that. With everything that I said about the Cowboys, the Packers showed up to play. They're the first 7 seed and the only 7 seed so far to win a playoff game. Jordan Love looked awesome. The offense looked ready to go. The defense, for the majority of the game, shut down the Cowboys. They did everything that they had to do. And like you guys were saying, the 49ers have to be a little bit more worried about this week.
Mm-hmm. And I actually want to make one more point, too. So I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys stats right now, and there isn't a D lineman that comes on in leading tackles until like 6 players, 7 players down their roster. Like, there wasn't a D lineman with more than 2 solo tackles, I should say. It's ridiculous. You look at all these. Lawrence, Parsons only had 2 combined tackles total.
Damn.
Like, the defense got carved up.
Yep. So I guess we can move on. I think unanimously this was probably the best game of the playoffs. Rams at Lions. Emotional game, obviously, because Matt Stafford and Jared Goff traded places. And honestly, this is probably one of the only trades that I could think of in my time watching football where both teams got exactly what they wanted. Like, Rams won a Super Bowl with Stafford, and the Lions flipped however many picks they got into Jamison Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. I'm missing like 2 or 3 other guys, but both of them made the most out of this trade. And looking on it, like, Jared Goff and Matt Stafford played unbelievable games. Like, neither of them made a mistake in my eyes. Mm-hmm. And Puka was incredible.
Yep.
1,000% the number 1 option there. It's not a question between him and Kupp anymore.
Nope.
It was a team effort for the Lions. The only thing I will critique about this game was there was a couple missed calls, especially the hold on Puka on the last drive.
Yeah, right.
This is the start of the bad officiating in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We'll get to the others later, but this was a great game, and I feel confident with the Lions going up against the Bucs.
Yeah, me too. I honestly think the Packers beating the Cowboys was such a gift for the Lions because I don't see... I mean, going into the Monday night game, which we will get into, I didn't see the Eagles or Bucs going into Detroit and winning that game.
Yeah.
So I think they were just... The Eagles and Bucs played the loser of the Lions divisional round game bowl. Mm-hmm. Detroit, I wish, because they went out and scored 3 touchdowns on their first 3 drives. And I just wish that there was, like, they added onto that and piled on. But you can't fault them for holding this, because one of their questions was their defense coming into the game. And yeah, you gave up a lot of yards to Stafford, but it's also the playoffs. It comes down to situational football.
Yeah.
And although you let all those yards go, you only allowed 23 points. And at the end of the day, that is what matters. It matters how many points you let up and how many points you scored. So you got to give credit to their defense. You got to give credit to their offense. I think they put together a full game. Although it wasn't high scoring or blah, 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 it doesn't really matter. They played well on offense. They played well on defense, and they got a tight win in a playoff environment. Like, that's a positive, and I'm really excited to see how they play against San Fran, if San Fran gets past Green Bay.
Yeah.
Because Detroit has shown they can play on the road. Like, they will put up a fight against San Fran that Philly and Dallas couldn't.
Yeah.
And I think that doesn't really speak to talent. It speaks to coaching and culture. I think it speaks to talent or coaching and culture.
Yeah.
I think Dan Campbell has turned the tides there in a way that no one has been able to for like 60 years. And he's the guy for them. Like, no question. I really trust him as a football coach. Like, I trust everything he does.
The best thing I saw Dan Campbell do was really hide the fact that Salem Porter was not even close to 100%. Yes, he did still catch a red zone touchdown, but 3 receptions for 14 yards for the guy that broke the tight end rookie record for most receiving yards. It was clear that he wasn't the same guy that we saw in the regular season.
Yeah.
But they hit it by passing to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was awesome. Reynolds got involved in the passing game to a level that we haven't seen both him and St. Brown have great games in the same game, mostly because of Laporta. And then the rushing game was really good. Yes, Gibbs only had 25 yards on 8 carries, which was averaged for about 3.1 yards. Montgomery got 4.1. But they both got red zone touchdowns. They both ran the ball when they had to. And it just opened up a different type of passing game for Gibbs because the Rams defense had to go up to cover that run. So I thought that was something that was a little bit overlooked in this game. And for the Rams, yes, they played flawlessly, except for the fact that they still had to kick 2 field goals in the second half. If you score 1 touchdown in either of those red zone drives, you win. And they had a lot of good red zone opportunities that they didn't capitalize on, which seems to have been the stories of the Rams this year, is that they just didn't have – Nakua and Kupp are great, but they're not big red zone threats. And the issue is that when the Lions are able to get set up on defense in the goal line situations where they have really good defenders, the Rams couldn't do anything. They tried doing the out route to Kupp the one time, and he was just completely covered. And again, he's just not tall enough or as agile as he was in past years to be able to make that play.
Yeah.
And he was great, but he's just not big enough in the red zone.
Yep.
So I think that they missed having that big red zone threat. And I think that's what ended up hurting them in this game.
I will add quickly, I was not familiar with the Rams defense. I was not familiar with their game. They have 2 rookies on the line that have 7 sacks, so they have a future moving past Donald.
Yeah.
Like, their defense is very solid
Definitely.
for their age.
And McVay's always going to be a good coach, too.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a good guy to keep around.
So we can move into Bills Steelers. So although the score was a lot closer than I anticipated it to be, I'm still as confident as I was last week saying that the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl because their offense is moving. Their offense is the most balanced it's ever been.
Yeah. And
you can get consistent good rush outings from James Cook, and you don't even need to look to Stephon Diggs every play anymore because you have guys like Khalil Shakir came out. You got guys like Kincaid, Knox. That's a great tight end duo. Even Andy Isabella had some production, which I did not expect coming into this game.
Yeah.
This is a complete effort on offense, and their defense holds their own. They got some big names there. They're going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Well, I don't think they're a bad pick at all. They looked, like you said, really balanced on offense. Like, both their rushing and their air attack were just really, really hard for the Steelers to stop. I mean, the Steelers, it felt like every single drive were just hoping for the Bills to make a mistake.
Yeah.
That's how I felt the Eagles have played too. Like, they're just hoping for the other team to make a mistake. And obviously the Bills controlled that whole game. Like, it never felt close to me at all. Mm-hmm. Allen pretty much played perfect football. I mean, the stats they don't like pop off the page. I mean, 203 yards isn't, great, but it's a good number to be at when your offense is putting up 31 points and you're 21 for 30. So, and you're not turning the ball over either. You're not throwing picks. You're not fumbling the football. Like
58-yard rush touchdown too.
Oh yeah. 74 on the ground there is. So he had 4 total touchdowns. That accounts for all of the Bills' touchdowns. Like, he had a great game. I mean, it's actually kind of weird because the Bills were being talked about so much when they were struggling, and now they've completely flipped the script, and I just don't think they're getting the attention they deserve right now. Like, I think Allen isn't getting enough credit for what he's doing with this team. Like, I'm sorry, they just are not that talented, but they're a great team. Like, they play really well together, and Josh Allen leads a really good offense, and their defenses came through all these injuries and still plays like stifling football. They play the run so well, and they allow their run defense to feed off on their pass defense. Like, they tackle well, they cover well, they do everything well on both sides of the ball. Like, I don't think they're a bad pick at all.
Yeah, I definitely have more faith in the Bills after this game. I still think I'm not saying the Steelers necessarily win if TJ Watt plays, but I feel like that if they had any type of pass rush at the beginning of the game, it makes it more of a game than it was. Mm-hmm. They just couldn't get to Josh Allen and let him have so much time to get through his reads. And by the beginning of the second quarter, this game seemed like it was over. Yes, the Steelers made it a little bit more competitive. But at the end of the day, it just felt like the Bills got off to such a fast start. There was no way the Steelers were going to be able to keep up with Mason Rudolph at quarterback. And in fact, they never really established a run game, which credit the Bills to that. But going back to the Bills, Josh Allen, I said that the only way that they win is if Josh Allen doesn't turn over the ball. Well, not only did he not turn over the ball, but he had 4 total touchdowns and that crazy run, which is the longest run in the playoffs since Colin Kaepernick's run against Green Bay, I think it was, in the division round. So that's the type of player that Josh Allen can be. The thing is that Josh Allen has to do it throughout the entire playoff. Yeah. And he just hasn't done that yet. And I need to see it in this Kansas City game before I can say that the Bills are definitely going on a run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If he can do this in 2 consecutive games, not turn over the football, and play a clean game, and the Bills win pretty convincingly over Kansas City, then yes, they are absolutely favorites. But like I said, we just need to see him do it more than one game against the Steelers team that was missing their best defensive weapon.
Yeah, and quickly I want to add Mike Tomlin did make the good call with Mason Rudolph because he threw more than 1 touchdown, which is something Kenny Pickett is allergic to.
Yeah. Oh, and also, I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl. I forgot about that. I thought
You did?
Yeah, I picked the Bills Cowboys.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I completely forgot, So, yeah, you're not far off, Jack.
Yeah, I think I have a really stifling advantage on you guys in this bracket.
Yeah.
I probably won already. And yeah, we could finish up with the Eagles-Bucks game. So, I don't want to talk too much about this game because this was just as embarrassing of an effort as the Cowboys had against the Packers, if you ask me.
Yeah, completely.
But the issue I have with this team is there was no collective culture this year. There was no accountability. There was no really leadership. No emotion, especially from Jalen and a bunch of the captains. I'm using quotes, not the jersey captains, but the team voices. Yeah. They were complaining about the booze, saying, "Oh, we're gonna fix this stuff." Never fix it.
Yeah.
Kelsey retired, which honestly, it's sad, but I think it's for the best. Because I think we need to move past some of the cornerstones that we had, especially I think Graham and Cox are going to retire, so I think we are going to see a different wave moving forward. But I said it last week, and you guys were kind of picking back at me, but Sirianni's got to go.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to go.
Yeah. I think the big thing, like, I definitely agree with you on Sirianni. I still think Sirianni is a good coach, but the main problem is, like, when you're the head coach, I need you to be a specialist at something. Like,
Yeah.
I need you to be in complete control of one side of the football, at least. And he just doesn't do that. So I didn't know this, but last year, Sirianni was designing the plays. Shane Steichen was strictly calling the plays all year. So obviously Sirianni has a mind for an NFL offense. He has that ability, but when he brings in a guy like Brian Johnson and Brian Johnson just doesn't do it, it's like, I don't want to take this risk again of having a bad coordinator and doing it again. Because the thing is, when you have a bad coordinator like that, you're stuck. When you move to a guy mid-season like they did with Desai and Patricia, it doesn't look good and it doesn't end good.
Yeah.
So you're stuck with that guy. And I'm not doing this where Sirianni can't effing call plays on offense. I can't do that. Like, you have to be in complete control of one side of the football. And because that, like, disconnect from the coaching staff carried onto the field with the players. A lot of the times they didn't even know who was calling plays. They didn't know what audibles were. Like, there was so much miscommunication on the field with the players that the disconnect in the coaching staff bled onto the field. And I can't have that. And that's why when a guy like Vrabel becomes available, who can stifle down the defensive side of the football, and you can bring in a coordinator who has control of the offense, and you don't really have to worry about the defensive side of the ball because you're coached really well and your talent is all over the field on offense, I think that puts you in a better spot. And Vrabel is good because he has connections with this team, obviously with A.J. Brown. I don't know if Byard is going to be back, but if he is, Byard is there. And Vrabel is very well respected throughout the league. He was a great coach in Tennessee, and he wasn't fired due to him being bad.
Yeah.
He was fired because they're heading in a new direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you get a guy who's coming in on a high note and is a great coach in this league and can lock down the defensive side of the football.
Yeah.
Because they need an overhaul.
They do, for sure. I don't want to rag on the coordinators much more because everyone knows they're terrible, but like the Eagles didn't convert a third down though. Yeah. So you got to blame the players a lot too. Like,
well, I don't, because they blitzed on every single third down and the Eagles couldn't pick it up.
Yeah, but this is a team that started 10-1 and they went 0 for 9 on third down. Like that is
But they were, you realize coming into this game against the Bucs, since the 49ers lost, since that week, they were 7th in the NFL on third down conversions.
Yeah.
7th in the NFL. This game was because the Buccaneers blitzed the shit out of them, and the coaching staff had no answers. None. When you look at the 1 third down play, the two receivers are running the same route, and the middle of the field is wide open.
Yeah.
One of them was supposed to run to the middle of the field, and that was supposed to be the hot route. Mm-hmm. But because the coaching staff can't get the call in, you have two guys running the same route.
Yeah. Jalen also wasn't looking anyone else's way besides Devonta, which kind of like shot us in the foot too.
But he couldn't really, because Goddard should have been targeted more.
Yeah.
But like he wasn't getting open and he was dropping balls. Mm-hmm. Like you lose your quarterback's trust doing that. So Devontae was the only guy he really could look at last night.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at the average time from snap to releasing the ball snap to pressure getting in on Hurts. It was like under 2 seconds last night.
Yep.
Which was the fastest of Hurts' career. It's ridiculous how an offensive line that was so like cherished coming into this year played so poorly over the last month. Like that, the O-line was terrible.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to say that anyone else was great either. I mean, I just think everyone was terrible.
Yeah.
Over the last weeks there. I think, I don't sit here and I'm like, oh, A.J. Brown played terrible. I want to get rid of him. Oh, I want to get rid of Hurts. Oh, I want to get rid of the O-line. Like, I'm not saying that because they're talented, and I think they just need better coaching. I think you also have to give credit to Tampa Bay, though. They played a good game. I don't think they're that good, but they played well.
Yeah.
So you got to tip your cap.
Yeah, the thing about Tampa Bay, I'm just happy that Baker's proving people wrong. There was one footage shot that I saw today of him lined up in Carolina as a defensive lineman scout team last year.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know who leaked that from Carolina. Something tells me that whoever did probably will not have a job.
Wait, what happened?
So there's footage, practice footage, of Baker lining up as a defensive lineman for their scout team when he was moved to backup.
Last year on Carolina. Yeah.
Yes. And now, a year later, in a much better system, he just passed 300 yards, which is the second quarterback in Tampa Bay Bucs history to do that in the postseason after Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Clearly, there's talent there. He was drafted number 1 overall for a reason. I'm not saying that he's ever going to live up to that full expectation, but he still is a very, very good quarterback. And I don't understand how the Browns decided to move on from him. The Panthers, to me, have just proven that they are a dysfunctional organization that needs some sort of direction. And the one coach that was able to resurrect him late last year was Sean McVay.
Yep.
And then he gave it to Todd Boyles, who is also a very successful coach. Yes, the record is the same as McVay's, but Tampa Bay last year should not have been an 8-9 team. They definitely should have been a 9-8 team this year. Mm-hmm. So this is a team that overachieves the last couple of years, and they just happened to play an Eagles team that was slipping at a time where the Buccaneers were able to make it into the playoffs and took advantage of it.
Yep.
The moment to me that was a turning point in this game was when Julio Jones got the concussion and was rolled out.
I agree.
You're already without A.J. Brown. He's your second wide receiver who he actually had 3 receptions at that point. So it looked like him and Devonta were going to be splitting receptions. He goes down. Now all you have is Devonta. I actually thought Quez Watkins had a pretty good game. And for someone that hadn't really had a lot of playing time, he actually played pretty well the last 2 weeks out of almost everyone. But when you're relying on guys that are your third string wide receivers that haven't really had playing time, there's not really a recipe to win a playoff game. And I don't blame the coaches for that one thing. That's just a circumstance thing that is out of everyone's control. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to adjust when you're without 2 of your best receivers.
Yeah, I think Baker Mayfield is a franchise quarterback for this moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they have to move with him because he's looked better than so many guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to move with him.
Yeah, I think Evans and Godwin might stick around because I remember there was talk beginning of the season like they were looking elsewhere, but like
they should stick around.
Yeah,
I agree because
nothing
the system
changed.
was good.
Yeah.
Baker was hitting them and a lot of their other guys. Like I'm not sure on names because to be honest, this was the first time I saw a lot of
Trey Palmer.
Yeah, Palmer and
Palmer had a good game.
Who was the other? They had another.
K. Dotton.
Not K. Dotton, although Brown. He had Brown. I mean, some of those other guys, the smaller names for Tampa Bay, really played well and got open. And I know they struggled with drops, which was kind of odd.
Yeah,
you couldn't tell,
especially
especially
Mike Evans.
Yeah, that was
this could have even been a wider margin if he hadn't dropped 2. One was up for a short touchdown. The other one was pretty close to it.
Yep.
So those 2 drops, I mean, they made the game a little bit closer, but at the end of the day, they still won pretty handedly. Outside of, I would say in the second half, because the first half was actually, the Eagles were making it somewhat of a game, even with the injuries and the fact that they were a little bit flat coming into. Mm-hmm. And the second half, Tampa Bay was able to take advantage of some of the things they saw in the first half.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything else?
I just wanted to touch quickly on the great game in Philly right now. Sixers and Nuggets. 123-115 Sixers with 2:50 in the fourth. Embiid and Jokic going at it. Embiid has 40, 6 or 7 rebounds and 10 assists, and then Jokic has 25 right now. Just missed a 3. But that's a great game going on in the NBA. 2 of the top teams.
Yeah. Embiid is making a case for MVP again.
Yep.
I mean, this is his 18th straight game with more than 30 points.
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous.
It's a ridiculous streak. Like, only Harden, really, that MVP year, has put up more. It was like a couple Wilt seasons, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Kobe may have been in there as well.
I mean, he's got to be careful, though, because the new rest requirements for awards.
Yeah.
I think we're not even halfway through the season yet, and he is 8 games off from being disqualified from the award.
Yeah.
So.
I don't even think he really cares about it, though.
No. I mean, I think last year he wanted to get it. This year he wants a ring.
Yeah.
And I think that this team, the way it's put together, could actually compete against some of these top teams. I mean, you're seeing it against the Nuggets, but I think Kelly Oubre has been a signing that went a little bit under the radar, but now is showing to be one of the best signings the Sixers have had in free agency in years.
Agreed.
Yep.
And it's made the team look more competitive than I ever remember it. The bench looks really good. I think Nick Nurse is just a great coach as well. In Toronto, obviously, when he won the championship, he had Kawhi, so people put that ring more on Kawhi than Nick Nurse, but the fact that Nick Nurse was able to get some of those Raptors teams to the playoffs shows he's a good coach. And I just feel that the Sixers look more comfortable with Nurse than at any point when they had Doc Rivers on the bench.
Yep, agreed. I think Nick Nurse has changed a lot in this Sixers team, and it's more than just X's and O's. It's also a culture rechange, which I think the Sixers really needed. If that wasn't obvious enough after they lost last year.
Okay, I think that'll end it for this week. We'll catch you next week for the divisional round. See ya.